Hello, we're now beginning with Chapter 11 on personality, Section 1 of 1. We have 4 theories we're going to talk about, and we're also going to talk about the concept of learned helplessness. We begin with Santrock's definition of personality. You can see that this is a rather vague concept. This is a large area of focus, and there are many theories and many theorists. You can take an entire course in personality theory. You can take entire courses on some single theorists. To make things a bit more understandable, I hope, I've divided the theories into 4 groups. Those that emphasize the subconscious, the nurture theorists, the nature theorists, and those that emphasize choice. Beginning with the first group, we encounter the psychoanalytic theories. These theories tell us that our personalities are driven by our subconscious, by deeply buried desires and fears. If we have a problem, we have to go into therapy for years to get to the root of our issues. Freud is usually credited with being one of the most powerful figures in this movement. During his lifetime, he attracted many bright young men to his theories. One of these was Alfred Adler. Adler's influence remains a force today, among other things, including the importance of birth order. He was a theorist who stressed that mind and body were interrelated, that you couldn't treat one without treating the other. He developed the concept of responding to the needs of the whole child. Easily Freud's most famous student, and for many years his colleague, was Carl Jung. They quarreled during a trip to the U.S., something to do with interpreting each other's dreams. They never spoke again. Unlike Freud, who related everything to sex, Jung had a broader approach. He felt we were all interconnected through the collective unconsciousness, that each of us had a light side and a shadow side, that symbols were important, but varied depending on both your culture and your own life experiences. If you're interested in Jung, and he is interesting, I would suggest this book, which is still in print. The second group of theorists are those that come to us from the nurture perspective. Not surprisingly, these individuals don't focus on underlying reasons, buried desires, medical imbalances, anything. They're focused on behavior. The first of these is B.F. Skinner. He stressed that our behavior is shaped and maintained by consequences. If you want to make changes, you alter the environment. Alfred Bandura is another behaviorist. You may remember it was his students who did the Bobo doll experiment. He felt, aside from direct consequences affecting our behavior, social creatures that we are, we can learn from watching others experience consequences. We model behavior, good and bad. This is called social learning theory. Next is Albert Ellis. Now, he has the distinction of having developed probably the most effective treatment for many mental health disorders. It's called rational emotive therapy, the basis of cognitive therapy. He came from a background of psychotherapy but was dissatisfied with the results he was getting. Because of his own life experiences, he began to develop the idea that we are responsible for much of our own miseries because we set up ourselves for disappointments and unhappiness. According to Ellis, we make irrational statements. 2 are included on this page. When things don't work out the way we want them to, we get distressed. I can tell you that every time you argue with reality, you will lose. Ellis's therapy focuses on changing how you think, hence the term cognitive therapy. You learn to recognize your irrational statements and change them to rational ones. One of his books, A Guide to Rational Living, is considered the premier self-help book, helping you identify your irrational thoughts, changing them into more rational and realistic expectations. This therapy is especially effective for anxiety. The third group of theorists are the nature theorists. They stress that personality is inborn. It's driven by genetic and biological factors. Obviously, temperament, which we studied last chapter, fits under this umbrella. If you go into therapy with one of these people, they will try to help you understand how you fit into the demands of your environment. Henry Eysenck is a standout in this field. Falling mostly under the influence of the nature theorists is the work of Isabel Myers and Catherine Briggs. They were influenced by the work of Carl Jung, and they developed 16 personality types that are supposed to describe your behavior pretty much throughout your life. You can find a Myers-Briggs test online and find your type. Don't take this too seriously. There's not a lot of research that supports the theory. However, this is a video I found both timely and amusing. It is the 16 Myers-Briggs subtypes under quarantine. The last group of theorists, and they are a diverse lot, emphasize making choices. We begin with the humanists and Carl Rogers. Rogers felt that people strive to be the best person they can be, self-actualization. People are capable of recognizing what they should be doing. In therapy, humanists are extremely non-directive. Instead, they reflect your questions back to you to help you define your problems and begin to outline your possible responses. Another humanist is Abraham Maslow. He's probably best remembered for his hierarchy of needs. We first need to have a place for shelter, food, and water, as well as a reasonable sense of safety. Next, we strive for jobs and relationships. Lastly, we move towards self-actualization, being that best person we can be. In the schools, I would sometimes work with parents with such limited resources operating at the ground level in the hierarchy. It was quickly apparent they were not in a position to help their child feel better about themselves or even help their child with their homework. Guidance and school-based social services would be employed. We had to help this parent before we could help the child. Now, the existentialists are also extremely non-directive. They feel that each of us has to find our own way to self-discovery. In therapy, they may talk about straying from your path or getting back on your path. There is an Eastern quality to their thought. Life is the journey, not the destination. They feel very strongly we are responsible for ourselves and our behaviors. If we don't like how our life is going, we need to make these changes. Rollo May is one of the theorists in this specialty. Now, a bit of change of pace here, the Gestalt therapists. They also stress choice, but unlike humanists or existentialists, they can be very directive. They have no difficulties with confrontation. They have been known to berate clients for making decisions clearly not in their own best interest. Fritz Perls is most closely associated with this theory. Also, think Dr. Phil. My husband tells the story about one of his Gestalt professors who left a note on the classroom door. "There will be no class today. I've chosen to be sick." The next topic relates to self-esteem. For a long time, there was an effort to raise self-esteem at all costs, but this did not turn out so well. When we look at high and low self-esteem, along with contingent and non-contingent environments, we'll find these four groups. Individuals with high contingent self-esteem, they feel good about themselves with good reason. They're good workers and good friends. Individuals with low contingent self-esteem feel badly about themselves for understandable reasons. They may struggle with academics, which is one of the things we can do to help raise their self-esteem, and or with personal relationships, another area we can help them with. Now, the two groups with non-contingent self-esteems are both at risk for learned helplessness and depression. Those individuals who feel good about themselves just because they're breathing and not because they're nice people will typically have expectations that all good things are just going to fall into their lap. They will have someone ride through the neighborhood and they'll see them playing football and they'll be offered a professional contract. They will have someone pass them on the street who hears them singing and they'll get a recording deal. They don't connect effort, training, talent with consequences. And when things don't work out as they think they should, and they never do, they become bitter and depressed. Now, the group with low non-contingent self-esteem is concerning. Something is going on in their lives that is crippling them. This group doesn't feel that what they do or don't do has any impact on their life. This is a group that we often find are being abused. So, when a person's self-esteem is non-contingent, whether they feel good or badly about themselves, they're at risk for learned helplessness, a leading cause of depression. This develops when a person does not feel they have any control, that what they do or don't do has no impact on what happens to them. This is the end of Chapter 11. Next is Chapter 12, Moral Development.